Hi, I'm Joe Finsternis, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about a movie called Lady in White. So, normally I start off my reviews by giving you a brief synopsis of the movie that I'm about to describe to you, but in the case of this movie, I really don't care enough about it to give you the plot. Um, yeah, before I was even 15 minutes in, I could tell that I would need some 99 proof alcohol to make the experience enjoyable. It feels like it was trying really hard to emulate the feel of one of those Spielberg-produced movies from the 80s. It even had like this upbeat score that felt like a flea market version of John Williams music, and it introduced you to all of these silly characters who were supposed to come off as sort of charming and likable and funny, but in the end just came off as pretty goddamn annoying. The main focus of the movie is this little boy named Frankie, and early on in the film, he gets into this argument with his brother, and listening to him scream, I immediately just hated the little fucker. Shit, I mean, as soon as he started yelling at his big brother, it was as if somebody had taken a fork and just started scraping it against a dinner plate as hard as they could. I will admit that the film has a couple of moments which are amusing by accident. There was one scene where said kid, Frankie, is reading this scary story to his class, and I could believe that it was written by a little kid. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to find that the actual actor in the movie had written it himself. It pretty much reads like, and the vampire came out from underneath the little boy's bed. The little boy was so scared he looked like he had wet himself, and the vampire bit the boy's neck, and there was so much blood that it was all over the place, and there was so much that it was all over the floor, and you would have sworn that a murder had just taken place in the little boy's room. And yeah, I'm not directly quoting the little boy's story at all, but it is just as stupid as I've just made it out to be. Also, there's this voiceover which is supposed to come from the adult version of Frankie, and he straight up sounds like he grew up to be a serial killer. Like, there's one point where he says something like, "And I fell asleep and dreamed of my mother's funeral." That's pretty much the expression that I imagined him wearing as he was saying that. The guy sounded like a legitimate creeper. There was also a pretty amusing moment where Frankie is being picked on by a couple of his classmates, and when he goes to hit one of them, he starts with a closed fist, but then at the last second his hand opens up and he smacks the bully in the forehead, which somehow knocks him over. Yeah. Pretty sloppy movie. There are a couple of scenes which could have been really effective if they had been handled by a more capable filmmaker. Like, for example, there's a scene where Frankie sees this little ghost girl as she's reenacting the night of her death. She's sort of a repeater in this scene, and, you know, right there, seeing a little ghost girl reenacting her own murder is something you'd have to mess up at pretty badly to make it not scary. But for one thing, the actress playing the ghost was a terrible actress. For another thing, for some reason that is a complete mystery to me, even though Frankie could see the little girl, he could not see the ghost of her killer. So she was fighting against nothing, and you could tell that she was swinging at nothing. And even as she died, I'm not sure how she was being killed. She was kind of arched back in a weird position like that. And as she screamed, she didn't sound like a little girl being murdered. She had this weird yell like, "Ugh!" The kids in this movie have some of the most bizarre screams. I mean, when the little boy gets angry, he sounds like a girl being murdered, and when a little girl is being murdered, she sounds like a heavy metal vocalist. It makes logical sense, I guess. Man. Oh yeah, and then there was a point in the film during which I almost legitimately respected the director because it felt like he had made a pretty ballsy move. There's a scene where Frankie gets strangled by this dark figure, and then you see him as a ghost, and you see him actually visiting the little girl in the afterlife. And, you know, there are some shots where you see him flying, and they're using some of the worst blue screen effects I've ever seen, but at the same time I was just sitting there thinking, damn, did they really just kill off the main character? Not only that, but the main character who happens to be a little kid? That's pretty fucking brave. But then he ends up being resuscitated because this is a kid's movie. As for the lady in white herself that the title mentions, there's really nothing I can say about her because I did not wait long enough to see her in the movie because I just did not care. The more I sat down and watched this movie, the more I just wanted to break things. And a film that has such a negative impact on me is just not worth making it through. I know that I can't really call this a full review if I couldn't even watch the whole movie, but in the end, just from what I've seen, I submit that Lady in White is one of the most god-awful films that I have at least tried to sit through, and I do not recommend it. Anyway, I hope y'all have a good one.